not only is this a major news story, but there's a lot of people that are utilizing this major news story to push whatever their own personal interests are, push whatever their own agenda is. And it's gotten to a point where I think a lot of people simply use whatever major news story is happening to redirect the attention, basically just push whatever marginalized group they hate. Like whatever group that they hate, that they despise, they make it out to be the villain. And considering that this story is related to climate change, which it doesn't have like immediate tangible associations where you can't just like look at it and go, oh, this is A to B. Climate change caused this. Like it creates opportunities for opportunists to lie in whichever direction that they want to. If you hate black people, you say, oh, they're looting, which is something that has taken place. If you saw on Twitter, there were people that were talking about how like black people were looting, and it was actually a video from local news filming black residents actually taking out their valuable items from their houses before they caught on fire. If you are angry and resentful about the existence of gay people, you look at the situation and say, oh, well, the fire department chief is actually a lesbian. So the reason why this is happening is because of DEI. If you hate the Democratic Party, you say, oh, it's Karen Bass who like personally lit the fires, basically. It's just, sometimes it's a combination of a lot of different factors, but of course, as is the case always, many of the factors that the Republicans point to are ridiculous. And some of the factors that liberal treat-rights point to are also ridiculous, and I will cover all of them extensively. First and foremost, let's look at the new images that are showing the devastation from across Los Angeles from the wildfires. Now the number of casualties is up to 10. The number of structures is in the thousands that have been burned down. You know, you have iconic landmarks, cultural landmarks that have now burned to the ground. And you have thousands of homes, thousands of places where people just lived. They're gone, right? 10,000 structures at this point. It's one of the most devastating wildfires. Will have the costliest economic penalty. And there are obviously some mitigation factors that were not implemented, but overall, everyone is trying to point the finger of blame at whatever they see is the real responsible party. So let's take a look at these new images and we'll talk about it. What landmarks? I've only heard of houses. Yeah. One of the houses in Altadena is one that my mom actually used in her dissertation that has a famous Orientalist interior architecture. It burned down. I think there was a couple different, like you got libraries and stuff that were burned down. The Pasadena Library, or not Pasadena, Pacific Palisades Library burned down. Here, the Newsweek has a full list of his iconic landmarks destroyed in LA by the California fires. The Bunny Museum, Andrew McNally House is the house I'm talking about, which is so sad. Real Inn, Pearson Playhouse, Palisades Charter High School. It was a fully functioning high school. Topanga Ranch Motel, Will Rogers Ranch House. And also, as all of this is being burned into the ground, you have the likes of Poly Market taking bets on the Palisades fire in California because we live in a horrible reality, a false reality. We are in a complete dystopia. It's also not cool. Like, it doesn't have all the fixins of a cool dystopia. It's just like regular old lame dystopia.
First natural disasters in that state's history. 8,000 firefighters and emergency personnel have been deployed, including the National Guard. Firefighters have poured in from all over the country to help. Overnight, officials said the death toll has now risen to 10 people. And a new fire, the Kenneth Fire, ignited in the West Hills. It quickly scorched nearly 1,000 acres in a matter of hours. I want to show you this map right here that shows the fires and evacuation zones. So far, 180,000 residents have been told to evacuate at some point over the course of this disaster. Some people are now returning what's left of their homes and neighborhoods, block after block. You see it right there, obliterated. More than 10,000 structures destroyed or damaged. The Palisades fire is the most destructive in Southern California history. It's burned an area larger than the size of Manhattan. Wow. Chief National Correspondent Matt Gutman starts off our team coverage. Good morning.
I thought it was criminal for bandits to loot and raid homes that are impacted by the wildfires. Why are bandits trying to loot the Palisades? Why can't we stop bandits from loitering and looting? What are you talking about, brother? I have a lot of friends who have relatives who live in the Pacific Palisades and they're reported bandits trying to steal and rob everything inside. Are these bandits insane, bro? I don't know what you're talking about, brother. I don't know. Like, do you see what the Palisades look like? Like, what are you talking about? You're making it seem like they're doing a WoW raid. Man, just look at the footage. There ain't nothing inside that rubble. Yeah, like Pacific Palisades is like an extra crazy place to say that this is actually what's going on. Like, I'm sure there might be some people, there might be some insane people that are like, oh, hell yeah, it's time. It's time to like raid this Rust base. But I don't understand. You're saying loitering and looting. I don't know what you mean by loitering and looting. Are you saying that people are loitering as in like they're just hanging out around the ash that once used to be a house? Like, what are you saying? Are they stealing the ash? Not sure why you pretend to be dumb as it's obvious what they wrote. I mean, they are. Why are you playing dumb? Because why would I entertain the fantasies of random people in a situation where 75% of the houses have been burned to the ground and you're over here talking about how like there's a massive looting problem? A lot of this stuff is just people is people communicating through whisper networks where there are pre-existing fears of this sort of thing happening. Are they hitting the 25% that's remaining? Is that what's going on? Like, that's all he wrote. I'm just stating what's happening. Okay, now you're playing dumb. I understand what that person is saying, and I'm addressing that the likelihood of this becoming like a major problem is fairly low. People forget that 18 million people live in Los Angeles. And if you're arresting, like, let's say you arrested 20 people in a city like Los Angeles, where there's like 18 million people, you arrested 20 people, at least 10 of them were just hanging around in an area where they shouldn't be and they were suspicious. And then the other 10 were actually, what? How about Hunter Biden's house burned down? What are you saying? I don't care about the Hunter Biden's house burning down. What? Anyway, the point I'm trying to make is out of 18 million people, if they arrested like 10 people on suspicion of looting and like 10 people who were actually looting, I guess the remaining 25% of the homes that are standing in the Pacific Palisades, do you understand how unimaginably minuscule this problem is? And it's being overextended as though it's like a ginormous problem. It's being deliberately talked about. It is a self-referential cycle that the media engages in with regular frequency, where they overextend and exaggerate the problem of looting that's happening in any sort of crises in an effort to ensure that police budgets stay high. Ironically enough, we can have a conversation right now about how high the police budgets are and how that actually works directly against the existing fire department budgets that need to go up in a place where there are wildfires, and the wildfires are going to continue to get worse and worse as a consequence of climate change. But many of you are so quick to hit that reactionary talking point to be like, what are the cops doing? There's looting happening all over the place. And without recognizing, unironically, playing along with the same incompetence of the Karen Bass administration that you want to criticize. It's crazy. Also, they don't have to talk about the insurance companies taking away fire protection. Yeah, there's so many more important things to discuss here. And there are people being like, yeah, the DEI lesbian fire chief, that's the reason why it happened. Or there's looting happening. Why aren't you talking about the looting? Why are you secretly hiding the looting? Like, as though it's a good thing. No, dude, it's not a good thing, okay? And I'm not saying that it doesn't happen ever, okay? But in a major city like this, having like one or two incidents such as this one, and then a whole bunch of suspicion is not necessarily the smartest way to go about it. That's it. If you're finding yourself in the throes of reactionary looting law and order narratives in the midst of this like unimaginably devastating wildfire, remember that you are doing the bidding of these guys who personally think that it's important to consistently keep paying cops more and more, keep expanding their budgets, and sometimes that those budgets are directly at odds with other budgets. Let's keep going.
Matt. Yep.
Hey, George, I want you to see behind me there is a house that is now fully engulfed. We are still...
What is this? Saw something about how their companies are already trying to buy up some of the land burnt homes. Not sure if it's true or not. Of course it's true. It always happens after every fire. It happened after Lahaina. If you recall, there are always opportunists that try to buy low in the immediate aftermath, knowing full well that there are always going to be, even in the place like the Pacific Palisades, there are always going to be people who simply have... they don't have enough money. They can't wait for the insurance payout. They have to sit in their rental property that the insurance is paying for, that the insurance is subsidizing. They see an opportunity for that land to go away, and they're like, okay, this is it. I need it. I'm desperate. There are always vulturous people that take advantage of these situations. The other thing that a lot of people do is also put out incredibly high rental properties. They've already started popping up in the Mar Vista area, in the Santa Monica adjacent neighborhoods, where single family homes that used to be rented out for 15 grand a month. These are pretty large single family homes, just understand, similar to what you're seeing in like the Pacific Palisade area. Now they have doubled the rent. Yeah, there are single family homes that are going for like 10 grand a month to 15 grand a month. Now they are on the market for 30 grand. 30 grand. 15K a month is crazy. That's so cute that you guys are so oblivious to Los Angeles real estate, Los Angeles housing market. Yes, dude. Yes. Single family homes in Los Angeles in the rental market are like 15 grand a month, 10 grand a month. Yes. Like, why do you think the house I live in that every single person that has visited has said is like a normal house? And I couldn't understand why there was so much hubbub around it. Why do you think it was 2.7 when I purchased it? Because the LA housing market is bricked, okay? It is so broken.
Still seeing homes burst into flames here days after the initial fire passed through. Fire crew just arrived here for the first time. We were here just before them. They are aware of this. They are trying to pounce on each one of these fires as quickly as possible, because I want you to see, I don't know if you can, maybe we'll keep pulling up a little bit, and I'll have Juan, our cameraman, and our second camera, Will, here show you the embers shooting up in the air. That is a concern. Those embers get fired up, cast downrange, hundreds of yards, and with a strong wind, even miles downrange, and they start new fires. Now, we're going to keep going down here, because we talk about these numbers and you see some of those fires up close, but you can't get a sense of the scale of what 10,000 structures destroyed in both of those fires, Eaton and here Palisades fire, looks like, what 10 fatalities seems like when we talk about whole neighborhoods until you see it on the ground. And the only way to really see it is drive through to see those naked chimneys with nothing around them. The playthings and toys of children just completely disintegrated here. And this goes on block after block on both sides of the street.
Nah, bro, I see a lot of opportunity to loot, man. I look at this and I think to myself, well, time to loot. Meanwhile, the real looters are the insurance companies. The real looters are the agribusiness interests that have absolutely gutted water management in this state. The real looters are the Los Angeles Police Department that takes up so much of the limited resources that your taxpayer dollars actually fund. And you're over here thinking about, like, you're fantasizing about like a random scary Guatemalan guy looting the ash out of this house that is like eviscerated, not realizing that that in and of itself is actually a continuation of the same structure. That right there, when you talk about looters and how devastating and how scary it is, acting like this is a ginormous problem. And I'm not saying that there isn't a single person that has, tried to use this as an opportunity to steal. But if you consider the situation, if you consider the 18 million, if you consider the tens of thousands of structures that have been destroyed, and you think to yourself that, oh, there's like some serious looting happening.
As far as the eye can see. This morning, those new harrowing images revealing the scale of the damage in Los Angeles.
I don't know how we're going to come back from this. I don't even know where to start.
Across the county, more than 10,000 structures destroyed, and overnight the number of fatalities jumping to 10.
Mars would be more habitable than this place right now, so it's crazy. There's absolutely nothing.
Once densely packed neighborhoods, now smoky wastelands.
Pacific Palisades, right now, could just be taken off the map. There is no Pacific Palisades.
But trickling back into this hellscape were families hoping to salvage an heirloom or a memento.
That is the living room. That's the front entrance.
This is for everybody.
Beyond that, there was a bedroom.
In the rubble of a condo building in Pacific Palisades, we meet Gail and Mario.
Is this your safe?
It is. Wanted to get to it before the looters got to it.
Gail fled with just her nurse scrubs, a phone.
Wanted to get to it before the looters got to it is crazy. Like, everyone's brains are broken, dude.
And little else.
The documents, passport, things like that
Nothing.
are somewhere here.
Yeah. Everything.
The widow hoping her wedding ring had survived this inferno.
Wow.
Mario pushed the safe off the building, then cracked it open. And for a moment, Gail held her breath.
Oh, yeah. These your rings?
These are my wedding rings.
There it was, still glittering.
Very cool.
Quickly, police on the hunt for looters came to investigate. How major of a concern is looting here?
Oh, it's huge. It's huge. And then you...
Dude, that's crazy. Of course the cops are going to say that. Oh my God, I'm losing my mind. Dude, oh, it's so funny because under any other circumstance, you would recognize exactly what's going on here. You know what I mean? But when it comes to like reactionary propaganda, the media totally is like, yeah, you're right. This is a huge deal. This is a serious, ginormous problem. That's why you need all the budgets, actually. I'm so glad that you got all the budgets. It's a tacit endorsement of the ridiculous funding structure that exists in Los Angeles. It is a way to basically say, fear not, it's not the LAFD that deserves more of those funds. It's actually the cops, because they're stopping the scary looters. Remember, they're stopping the scary looters. There's a lot of income inequality here. Maybe the poor started the fire. You never know. Maybe they just hate it. Maybe they just hate the rich. That's why they started the fire. Please, no matter what you do not look at the situation directly in front of you. Do not look at the mismanagement of funds. Do not look at the mismanagement of resources. Do not look at climate change being an accelerant in all of this. Don't do it. Once again, there are 18 million people living in Los Angeles. Like, are there going to be opportunists? Of course there are. Okay. Just like I'm not discounting the notion. Just like I'm not discounting the notion that it could have been arson, at least for one of these fires. Oh my God. My point is, we have this bias where like we get primed into thinking that anything and everything that we see might actually be in line with the preconceived notions that we have of society. The point I'm trying to make is that it is marginal, okay? It is marginal. But the reason why you hear about it nonstop is for a nefarious purpose. The reason why that's the only thing you hear about, and then that actually shapes the way that you see what's going on in your own backyard, that causes you to think every single person that you don't really recognize might be a looter, is because there is a scary, insidious, propagandistic purpose to constantly thinking about looters in the aftermath of natural disasters, so that you never question why the cops get more money year over year and why the fire department doesn't have that same unlimited budget. That's it. And people refuse to understand it. They'll come in here and they'll be like, oh, looters though. It's like, I get it. Okay. I'm not saying that they don't exist, but the real reason why they're hyper focusing on this narrative is because twofold. One, if it bleeds, it leads. It's great clickbait. And two, it's a way to constantly make you afraid that there are a tremendous number of villainous figures that are poorer than you, that want to do horrible violence to you all day, every day. And that's precisely the reason why you need cops. That's precisely the reason why you need multiple billions of dollars, more tanks for the cops.
You have $1 million homes all intact, rows and rows of them. And there's really no way to police this area effectively right now.
At least 20 people have been arrested for looting. And checkpoints.
Why does the media run with that narrative? I 100% agree with. I'm just confused about the media's angle because it's more entertaining and interesting. Just as it is more entertaining and interesting to talk about Paris Hilton's house being burned down in Malibu than it is to talk about the black middle-class family in Altadena losing their nest egg and everything that they worked their entire lives for. And that's precisely the reason why people look at the situation and go, oh, it's all rich assholes who lost their 8th house. I don't care. The media is not covering this in that way specifically because they want to draw resentment and ire towards the victims of a massive wildfire. They're doing that because that is a narrative that's cool and interesting and unique. And these guys want to make things unique and interesting. That is the primary goal. And this isn't the entirety of the media, because I do have to give a lot of credit to local news and even mainstream news in general. They've done a tremendous job, aside from like the, insane looting is happening everywhere. We have to start killing random people and it's probably arson narratives. They've done a tremendous job, accurately and in real time giving you information that you need. This is one of those moments where you have to remember, like, this is why local media matters, okay? This is why local news is incredibly important. Think about what you see on Twitter. Think about your Twitter timeline, how malleable it is and how silly it is that, like, you have to scour through basically multiple scrolls worth of scrolls worth of your timeline on Twitter to arrive at like accurate information in real time, as opposed to local news, as opposed to mainstream outlets that are in real time offering you real time coverage about what's going on. The looting fear is just so overblown. The cops need to set up a perimeter anyway, since most of the area is still dangerous. Yeah, that's the other thing. Like there is a role for police here. There is a role for police, as I pointed out when the fires were happening. They're there to redirect traffic and ensure people can't get into these areas, okay? They're there to make sure that everyone can evacuate safely. They're there to ensure that people can't go back to their houses by force if necessary, to stop them by force if necessary. Because when you allow random people to go in through the cordon that you, the area that you cordon off, you're creating a worse situation for emergency services. You are now a potential victim that needs to be saved. You have a car that is potentially blocking the emergency services that might need to use that route. So cops actually do play an important role here. They just don't really do that important role. It's not about stopping the looters. There are plenty of places where the police force play an important role in crisis management in times like this. The issue, however, is that they rarely do the job that they're supposed to. And then they just sit around and talk about looters all day and about arson and about homeless people potentially like lighting these fires or whatever.
The motorbike is being pushed away by the officer. He sort of blew through this checkpoint here, and immediately they pounced and chased him.
Susan Campick, Tracy, and Madeline Dam among the dozens who walked here in the hopes of being escorted back.
So I don't get it. So do we have any updates? Is the guy in the motorcycle actually, do we know that he was a looter? Do we know that that was his goal? Or was he just an interested party that wanted to see what was up? Or maybe even someone who lives there and wanted to go back home? No, he was driving a motorcycle. So the automatic assumption is that he is a looter. This is what I'm saying. It's like, walked up to a random car and yelled at them. They said, I live here, but I'm scared all my neighbors and avoid eye contact. So how could I know? Anyway, here's their license plate. These guys are casing the Sunset Firehouse looking for a score. I approached him and I said, I don't speak English. I live here. He doesn't live here. They're professional looting rings, operate an organized entity. That is insane. That is insane. I'm losing it, dude. Who the loots on a motorcycle? You can't carry anything? I know.
Back to their homes.
I've been in this since Tuesday. I've got the same socks. It's like everything is the same.
Oh, they got see, they got the looter. They got the scary looter in the back. Look, look, look.
I've been in this since Tuesday. I've got the same socks. It's like everything.
There he is. In his like $30,000 e-bike, by the way. Like, what's the higher likelihood that he's a looter on a bike? Or not 30,000. I think these are like 10 grand or something. The Segways are crazy. The new Segways are like 35 grand. The electric bikes. Maybe he just looted the bike too.
It's like everything is the same.
It's almost like at this stage of my life, when I thought I was at the end of the marathon, I'm at the beginning of a new marathon. And we have to create everything from scratch.
They got the call, jumped in the car, and off they went. Just a few minutes later.
It's apocalyptic. It's like someone's dropped a bomb. There's cars burnt out. There's ash everywhere. We were thinking it was going to be bad, but I think we both had no idea how bad it was.
Like so many grappling with the loss of almost everything.
If I could only have found one thing, this was it. It's the bell that we have at the front of the house, and it came.
Like, look at this, dude. Look at, like, what are they gonna loot from this house? Look at the conditions of the house, dude. The bell outside the house looks like that. What are you gonna loot from that house, Chatter?
My husband's childhood home in Somerset, England, and it's damaged, but it's alive.
These satellite images showing the immense size and scope of the devastation.
Like, yeah, you know, opportunity, baby. I can't wait to loot the ashes.
Devastation.
You're completely out of touch on this. Looters are an issue, though. I don't know if you're genuinely trolling right now or trying to push a narrative and an agenda. You're completely out of touch on this. No, I'm not completely out of touch on this. I'm stating that while there are opportunists in times like this, the media greatly overemphasizes the danger of looting in a situation where what is there to even loot in the Pacific Palisades? 75% of all standing structures have melted. 75%. Like, hyper focusing on this and causing you to be suspicious of every single person that's in your immediate vicinity. People that say, oh, I'm not duped by mainstream media narratives, immediately get duped by mainstream media hyper focus on certain incidents and certain issues in the immediate aftermath of a wildfire, and only because it corresponds to their reactionary attitudes that they have and the fear that they have in their heart about the unknown, about the other, about like the vicious nature of man. Where they go, nah, you're out of your element. I'm not saying that there aren't people that would try to do such a thing. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying that people are greatly overemphasizing this aspect.
Where there were once sprawling communities, now a wasteland surrounded by areas splattered in red fire retardant. This picturesque coastline obliterated. Haze.
That's the other part of this. You know what's crazy about the looting in this situation? They're gonna get cancer, dog. If they go into the flame retardant sprayed houses, that's an incredibly cancerous material. So even if they were to go to a standing structure, they're just gonna get, they're putting a death sentence on themselves, okay? Don't believe your lying eyes. There's totally like a million looters out right now. I know. It's interesting because like the media keeps constantly saying this, but there's just like never really any hard evidences to suggest that this is a ginormous problem.
Obscuring the scene below.
Oh, look at the flag.
And there, that tattered flag covered in soot, waving at half-staffed among the debris. Of course, the greatest loss,
I have to pee.
Human lives. The New York Times reporting 82-year-old Rodney Nickerson and retired pharmacy technician Erlene Kelly were among the dead. And 66-year-old Victor Shaw.
And I opened the front door and I just yelled in, "Victor, we got to get out. This is it. We have to get out. The fire's here." And I didn't hear him say anything. I heard him say nothing. So I ran to the car and I just got out. I just got out and I went down the street and there was a police car and I flagged him. And I said, "My brother's in the house. I need help." And he told me to get out. He said, "Go."
His family later finding his body with a garden hose in his hand.
And I couldn't be here. I couldn't be here to save him. I couldn't be here. That's what hurts the most.
We're going to turn now to the Eaton fire. That's another big one around here. And it is still burning out of control. 0% contained northeast of LA. This is the area around Pasadena. And as I say, no containment at this hour, 0%. Chris Van Cleve is in what's left of Altadena. Hard hit it was. Chris, good morning.
LA city officials have contacted LA mask block members for PPE resources. No joke. Yeah, I heard about this. I think Mother Jones is going to be covering this as well. After potentially considering a statewide or a citywide mask ban, LA, the LA municipality reached out to like a disability activist group to get some masks. Is crazy. Yeah, they tried to do mask bans and now they want them for from predominantly disabled to POC people doing mutual aid to a fundraiser for that. PPE just straight up bought it out of pocket. I mean, I don't mind like a predominantly POC disability activists like giving whatever they have to the city. It's not like an unreasonable request. It is unreasonable because it exists. Like it is unreasonable that like this need exists. Like they should have masks. How do you not have masks? How do you not have respirators? It's crazy because it's a city with 18 million people. California as a state is like the 4th largest economy on the planet.
Tony, fire trucks are stationed all over Altadena. There are 2 poised about half a block from us right now. Is there still a lot of concerns about wind and hotspots? Smoke is hanging like the sense of loss over this community as people come home and find scenes like this.
Now into its 4th day, the Eaton fire's devastating path leaves behind only scars of what remained before. At least 5 people are dead.
Someone on Twitter is being in my reply saying climate change didn't cause these fires. Instead, it was white colonialist hubris. I know indigenous groups and activists have been complaining about how indigenous populations used to do controlled burns back in the day in order to avoid some of the more devastating aspects of these wildfires. And there's some truth to that, except, you know, it's I mean, there is some truth to it from what I understand, but it's also environmental groups as well. I'll tell you this much. Murat works with a lot of people that work for the BLM, okay, the Bureau of Land Management, that work in forestry. And from what I understand, the people that they hate the most, the number 1 people that they hate the most are Republicans. The number 2 people that they hate closely after the Republicans are also some, not all, but some conservationists that approach all of these issues with a tendency where they approach a lot of these problems with an attitude where they're just like first and foremost predisposed with stopping certain things like prescribed burns from happening that sometimes get in the way. I think it's just arson, to be honest. No, sometimes get in the way of like doing forest management. There is some truth to that. They obviously hate the Republicans first and foremost because they're insane, but they are also personally, as far as I understand, sometimes annoyed by the conservationists as well, because sometimes they can be the friend who's too woke that gets in the way of proper forest maintenance.